Welcome and thank you for joining us. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about Ayurvedic medicine in retrospect to the proper exercise way of doing things. It's known as the pillar of health in Ayurvedic medicine. On the guests today are Richard Haynes, who is the founder of Ayurvedic Plus in Portland, Oregon, and also Lynn Fouch, who is a 30-year avid runner who trained and participated in the Women's Olympic Marathon trials from 2000 through 2008 in Boulder, Colorado. They're both joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program. We're going to find out the dynamic way exercise plays a pivotal part in good health. Richard, Lynn, thank you for both joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
It's You're welcome. Pleasure to be on your program this afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's talk about this Ayurvedic approach to exercise. Is it different, or what is it exactly?
Well, in Ayurveda, proper exercise is key. It's fundamental to any program of health maintenance or to restore balance to your health if it's lost. The Vedas clearly state that the purpose of exercise is to take stress away. And so, whereas some people would not exercise if they had a sore knee or were feeling down, in Ayurveda, that's the time to exercise, but to exercise correctly for the individual so that the stress is actually taken away.
Len, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, a lot. It's very interesting because not only training for the Olympic trials in high altitude and in Boulder too, there's quite a bit of stressors there as well. And working with the Ayurvedic principles, of course, it eliminates most of that stress, and it puts you in a mindfulness and almost like a meditation throughout your whole daily activities. So therefore, I like the method because it enforces the longevity of exercise into our 100-year and plus. I think I'm going to live to about 120 running marathons and whatnot because of the principles of Ayurvedic medicine and how it honors the body of no pain. There's no pain involved, and there's a gain when there's no pain. And truly living that passionate life, looking within and honoring the body and looking at the cycles and the rhythms of the nature. So that's just the tip of the iceberg with the Ayurvedic that I've experienced.
Well, let's take a look at a common cliche then. No pain, no gain. This doesn't sound that way.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. The Ayurvedic approach to exercise is the intention is to experience comfort and bliss in every cell of the body, from beginning to end of exercise. So in Ayurveda, it's no pain, no pain.
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because you do break down the cells of the body when you're in that painful state. And all the modalities that I practice, including the posture alignment method that I do, that's the same philosophy. There shouldn't be a pain, because we don't gain from it. We're breaking down on a cellular level. And then the telomerase activity, which is the DNA of how long we live, actually breaks down. So through these principles and honoring the body and who we are, especially training at an Olympic level, even John Dewey, who practices and who is a professional athlete, he saw it, that he could actually do more when his body was in a state of peacefulness instead of the pushing through with the pain.
Oh, that's interesting. Because you have so many experts out there spouting off different things. I mean, that'd be interesting to count how many books are out there by professionals, but yet I remember probably about 10 years ago, Jim Fick, who was a big-time runner, they found out this guy was actually in terrible shape when it came to his real physiology, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, so what's really going on here?
I just revisited the Jim Fix story in John Dewey's the Ayurvedic practitioner in Boulder on Jim Fix, and how he became so obsessed with, he was overweight and smoked and he drank and then lost all this weight and became obsessive, compulsive with the aspect of exercise and didn't take the time. And actually 3 weeks before he had the heart attack, he had actually had many heart attacks leading up to that. So he wasn't listening to his body and his rhythm.
Wow.
I don't know if you knew that, but they looked at the scans when he, an autopsy, and he had 3 major heart attacks. And I was a paramedic, so I know a lot about Western medicine as well. So, he just failed to look at. He knew the warning signs and he felt them, but he failed. He just didn't want to admit to it that he was really pushing his body beyond what we are capable of doing, and that comes with the mindfulness. And Ayurvedic really pushes that to really relax the mind, and has a lot of methods and modalities. And I'm sure Richard and I will talk about a lot of those in the talk.
Well, let's do that then, because obviously we're breaking down the obvious stereotype. We need a lot of anaerobic exercise. There's aerobic exercise that goes left, right, and the other, and then pretty soon a person's basically split in 100 different ways trying to figure out what is the right thing to do. But I can already hear one key element here that our listeners should be aware of, and that is feeling and listening to what your body is telling you. If it's starting to get sore, for instance, maybe you ought to just slow down a little bit, because that's not the direction you really want to be going.
Or ask for guidance to what can help me to get my body in a state of peacefulness. And if you stop and listen, your body really knows exactly what it needs. And the people and the places and the events will come into your life, such as Richard coming into my life when I moved here from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
It's just taking that time to really, truly listen within, and then being guided and ask the good questions and ask for that guidance. All right, Richard? That's how we met.
Yeah. I remember you came here. Actually, you brought your son here.
I did, and he's in his teenage years, and he had severe cases of acne, and I'm very holistic, and I tried every modality, and training with John Dewey for all those years in Boulder and being here in Oregon, I just looked on the internet for an Ayurvedic practitioner, and I knew that there was a dosha off on him, and he was probably eating some foods that weren't conducive, and there's also an emotional component to it as well, and I knew that the Ayurvedic practitioner would cover those bases. So I found Richard and traveled up to see him, and not through Richard. I mean, he has really brought Zach back into balance, and we followed in his regimen with, the timing of when he should exercise, when he should eat, which was more conducive because of his body type. And that has really helped. And another aspect that's helped, may I go into the nasal breathing, or is this too early?
Yeah.
Oh, this is incredible, because while I trained, my home's at 10,000 feet, and John Dewey taught me about the nasal breathing, no opening the mouth, because when we open the mouth, we get in a fight and flight response, and we don't want that, because then we increase our cortisol and our adrenals start to get fatigued. When we do the nasal breathing, we actually shut the adrenals off, so we're not putting out the stress hormones. And we can feel our heart rates actually dropping when we're in that state. So when I did it up in the mountains, it was challenging because of lack of oxygen. But over time, you back down your pace, and you keep doing it, and then eventually the whole lung capacity will open up to really rejuvenate every cell in your body, and you'll actually get more oxygen to all the tissues. For instance, we're not born mouth breathers. We're born as nasal breathers. It's when we are stressed or we need something, we open our mouths and cry and we want something. So it almost puts us in a fear state. So anyway, when we went to see John with my son, he had revisited that nasal breathing technique back, and we had gone out and done a little walk and run, and he couldn't believe how much my heart rate had dropped just by doing the nasal breathing again. And mind you, I've not even opened my mouth when I run 10 miles a day without, for the last year. So my son, who is an ultimate Frisbee team, this is so cool. So he left Richard that day. He went into ultimate Frisbee on Monday, and he was the last one on the team, usually running around the track or whatever. And he started to implement the nasal breathing, and he actually beat everyone on this mile run. And the coach came up to me and she said, "What is he doing?" And this was just in a weekend. And I said, "Well, we went to an Ayurvedic practitioner, and he started the nasal breathing." So he'd actually got his heart rate decreased. He wasn't in a stressful state, and he actually could surpass the kids just in 2 days.
Wow.
Isn't that phenomenal? It's incredible. So his coach, who's also a Spanish teacher at the high school, she says, "I need to know this book by this John Dewey." So I gave her the name, and I gave her Richard's contact up in Portland. She went and got the book, and she said, "I'm teaching this to my children or my kids in class because it actually decreases the stress in the body when they're in a fearful or a fight or just in a state of stress with like even test taking." And she says, well, shut your parasympathetic nervous system off, and we're not going to have the adrenals fatigued with all the hormones that are running around in your body. So it will actually put you in a straight state of calm, and you won't burn out at a cellular level. Isn't that incredible?
Yeah, just it's so different from what you conventionally hear out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine actually running without my mouth open.
It works. In fact, I've even taken some major dives on a 10-mile run up in the forest here down in Corvallis, and I'm still nasal breathing, and I grunt. It's amazing. And even when I CrossFit, my whole mouth is closed, and I'm just in a state of and I come out of a workout feeling rejuvenated.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. I can come out, and I see people coming up this hill at the end of a run, and they're just panting, and they're distressed, and they're using up all their reserves, and their hormone levels the stress hormone levels are up, and they look like they are not going to make it the rest of the day. Me, it's like I come off and I can do my push-ups and sit-ups at the end of the trail, and I'm ready to go again.
That's very, very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you open your mouth, you're in a state of hyperventilation, right? Secondary to oxygen entering the nose, and then you don't have that steady stream. So then, if you're breathing through your nose, you can actually get more oxygen to the tissues, and then your CO2 isn't going to be building up in your body. So it just makes sense. And then especially your heart rate. We want to get our heart rates down. And, at first it is a method that you really have to back down the pace. If you're an Olympic level and you're just starting this, of course it's going to be frustrating because it's like, oh, I'm getting slower and slower, but actually you're gaining because over time, and, they've showed this statistically and in studies, that over time you're actually getting more oxygen because you can actually feel the air going in every part of the lobes of your lungs. And even going up hills, I can feel that now. It's like it is just the coolest thing to experience.
So one of the key things to really learning how to do this is that before you even start to exercise is to know how to turn off your adrenals.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us in our daily lives, because of the pace of life, because of the commitments, the demands that are placed on us, we're always in a little bit of that adrenal pushing, defending, judging, aggressive mental stance. And that stance must first be released and relaxed before you even begin to exercise. And that's where you may need some guidance and some help with how do you actually do that? How do you use the breath? How do you tap into the power of your own natural chi and not from a fight or flight pushing standpoint? But once the switch is made, it's phenomenal, the benefits that will, and the increase in performance that will come. I remember I had a yoga student who was also a triathlete, and he decided, he would go in yoga and he would learn how to relax and to meditate and to breathe and to relax. And he would go jump on his bike and pedal 100 miles and, training for some triathlete. And it was just completely the opposite. And so he came to me, and I trained him in these principles, and so he could bring this experience of yoga into his exercise. And he did this marathon, our triathlete event in Bend the year before, and then I trained him, and then the next year he did the same event. And he came back to me, and I said, well, how'd you do? And he said, oh, I had a wonderful time. I felt so good. He said, then the next day I felt so relaxed. And I said, well, how did you do? And he said, oh, I didn't even care how I did. I was just having such a good time. And he said, I didn't even check my results. And I said, well, can you do that? And he said, yeah. And so we went online right then. And his time was better than the year before. He actually finished in the top 30 participants out of something like 600 people. And he thought that he went slower than the year before. So
because you're in a more relaxed state and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not pushing through. I don't
couldn't
feel like
believe that he actually, his time was actually better, and he he was in the top 30 of the participants. So
I can totally relate to that, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a wonderful feeling to come across the finish line feeling like you could do another mile or two. And your splits are negative, and people are behind you are looking like they're just wiped out, and they're panting, and they're using all their stress hormones and whatnot. And I intend to be a healthy, active person for the rest of my life and into my hundreds. So these are methods. It's not just the nasal breathing as well. It's the meditation that Ayurvedic brings, as well as the seasonal cleansing and the sun salutations and the carbo loading and what kinds of foods that each constitution would benefit from. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I'm reminded of a movie years ago starring Jan Michael Vincent where he was a hippie that goes into the U.S. Marines.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a scene where one of the things they have to do for exercise, they have to hold buckets out to the side. I don't know if it's water or a little bit of sand, but they have to hold them straight out to the sides on each side. And eventually, some of the other people within his platoon are asking, how is it that you're able to do this and never drop him? Everybody else, you see him just panting and dropping the buckets and the whole bit. And he's just standing there with a smile. And then eventually what it shows is he's going into a meditation where he's basically rolling around in the woods with his girlfriend and enjoying himself as though he's not really there with the bucket. So eventually he starts showing these other guys how to do what he does, and of course, eventually he starts upsetting the company commander because he's there to try to break him. But would you kind of say that Ayurveda kind of takes people to that state when you talk about exercise in meditation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, it's not like leaving and going somewhere else with your mind, which does. I mean, there is a benefit in that and distracting you from what's going on. But the benefit of Ayurvedic exercise is that you completely connect with the body. You connect with what's going on and relax into that experience. And from there, you have a lot more ability to increase your performance, to bring oxygen to the areas that need it. That naturally happens when the body and the mind are coordinated.
And you attract people around you that when you're in that state. People, like I was just in the gym CrossFit for an hour and a half, just and smiling and nasal breathing and this energy. And I had several people come out and say, "Why, you always look like you're enjoying yourself." And I said, "I am. Every single moment, every time we're moving, it's a gift. This is what we're supposed to be doing." And just to extend that state of bliss in everything you do, not just with exercise, but even driving down the street with your car. And I know it's a challenge with our society because we burn the candle at both ends, and we don't allow our bodies to rest like they should. But I believe that there's a major shift happening right now, and we will be beginning to do that because a lot of people are asking good questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, driven to distraction, no doubt.
I'm sorry, they want to live their passions in life. And the system it's breaking down that doesn't work if we don't honor nature, and we are part of nature, The trees give off electrons, and believe it or not, the rain out here, it's awesome because actually rain gives us electrons, which our body needs. It's part of the earth. It's just like walking barefoot on the earth and receiving all the electrons from the earth to heal. So I love it when it rains here, more the better. And I wear shoes where I can get my feet all full of mud and water because then I'm getting electrons to my body.
The other principle of Ayurvedic exercise is learning that your body is different each day. And learning how to, before you even begin to exercise, is to tune in and ask yourself, how am I feeling today? What is it my body wants today? And it's going to be different every day. Learning how to be self-referral, to listen to the body before, during, and after exercise is key to really increasing performance every time you exercise. In the Western approach to exercise, it's something that you do. You do it in a class. Everybody does the same thing. And that's very counter Ayurveda. Mm-hmm. Because in Ayurveda, there actually wouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. Everyone would have a different program every day. And everyone would exercise to a different level of performance every day based on their own internal experience. And it's not, we don't listen to the earphones or watch the big screen TVs or distract yourself to just get through the workout. It's none of that. It's like connecting to the body very deeply and profoundly all during the exercise. And the first thing that people notice that when I start to teach them this is that just even telling them, how could you do that? And then I have them go for a walk with that intention. And they notice how scattered their thoughts are, how unfocused they are. And but through the training in a very short period of time, it's like they have a completely different experience of being able to really deeply connect with the body and the breath.
Right, and then you're actually increasing the electrons and the minerals and the vitamins in your body. You're not losing them. You're not losing the reservoirs that you want to keep stored up and for things that are happening in our environment. And just working out on the indoor equipment with the TV on, it is taking so much magnesium out of your body just from the electrical activity of those machines. I don't know, a lot of people are astounded when I tell them that. I said, and that's why if I can't get out for a workout and I'm traveling, I have a grounded material so that I'm not losing my magnesium. And I don't put on the TV. And I try to turn off the TV if no one's on the equipment next to me because I don't want any of that.
Right. Yeah, the performance depends on how much energy your body can put into the muscles that are actually doing the work. And studies show that up to 80% of the body's energy can be used in the brain, in listening, in seeing, in thinking. And so if the energy that the body is making is going to watching the big screen TV or listening to the headphones or reading a magazine or thinking about all the stress in your life, you're not going to be able to go to a place where your performance can naturally unfold and get more and more every day.
And this applies to, more than just running. This could be weightlifting, it can be swimming, it can be gymnastics, just whatever is involved in moving the body and being into that movement is what you're talking about.
Yes, and not only that, it applies to going to the grocery store, it applies to picking your kids up from soccer, it applies to cooking the family meal. Everything that you do, that experience will be enhanced.
Yes, and people around you are more at calm and peace, and even animals and children, they know when you're connected and you're not in a stressful state, and it just helps your whole cellular level to become tuned in and to live a more passionate life.
It's funny you should say that, Lynn. I remember years ago I was describing when you're beginning to become spiritually in tuned, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that is, I would tell people this, you start to notice that nature and children, babies, begin to respond or they're drawn to you.
Oh, yes.
And, when I discovered or found that was happening, I thought, this is an amazing feeling because you don't really personally notice something right away, but you begin to notice that, like, why is there this attraction happening here? Mm-hmm. And then you start realizing, well, maybe I'm more aligned in myself than I thought I was or I used to be anyway. So.
Right. I flew home yesterday from Boulder, Colorado, and my passenger next to me was a 3-year-old little girl, and right away she was immediately attracted to me, and she had her feet on me, and I just, it was wonderful, and she was talking to me, and course, she was eating Cheetos, and I told her, I said, I don't mind your feet or anything on you, just as long as I don't get Cheetos on my white blouse. I was teasing her. But it's true. I mean, kids will really feel that, and their energies will be calmer, and they won't be in a state of out of line or trying to do things that are not conducive, like the behaviors, the screaming and kicking and whatnot. They know.
Fascinating stuff. It's so interesting to realize that there's a different way to go about doing things to become healthy than the common stuff everybody seems to be parroting out there.
Right. May I bring up another subject about the digestive issue and the elimination?
Yes,
because
please do.
That's huge right now. I mean, not right now. It's the key to life. It's the gastrointestinal system is the immune system, and I know a lot of doctors are, the holistic ones that have converted from the Western allopathic have gone that route, and I've been studying this, and it's just huge that we really need to honor that system to strengthen whatever comes our way with all the toxicities that are in our environment. It's just a fact of life because we have corporations that put them out in the air and the soils and whatnot. So I love the Ayurvedic principle because it looks at your digestive system and your elimination. It helps to strengthen up the immune system because that's actually where we think is in the gut. All the serotonin is made there, the neurotransmitters are made there, and that's why we really need to really strengthen that area at this time. It's very, very crucial. That's why I believe we have so many ailments in our environment now, such as ALS and MS and also autism because of the vaccinations with the mercuries and whatnot. So I love the Ayurvedic principle because it really targets the digestive system. Yeah,
and one of the things, in order for digestion to function properly, you have to be relaxed. So learning how to exercise properly is the first step in strengthening your digestion. If you're not relaxed, it doesn't matter what you eat or how you eat or when you eat, your food will not be digested.
Right, and that's nasal breathing brings in that state of relaxation.
Relaxation, and then you begin to get more out of your food, and you begin to get to realize that the taste buds become more sensitive, and you're attracted to the taste that actually will nourish the body. And so over a period of time of doing things that strengthen the digestion, and then the cleansing and the seasonal routines of Ayurveda that support that, your body begins to get the nutrients that will take your performance to an even higher level. So it's
not just within athleticism, performance. If you're, work or whatever you're going to medical school or whatever you're doing, performance in anything.
Now, just to let you folks know, Richard and Lynn, we have a question from a guest here who chatted in this question, wants to know what are the exercises that can strengthen digestion?
Well, any exercise that will bring about relaxation in terms of like a physical exercise, and that's different for each person individually. So there's no like one size fits all there.
Okay, good.
And so that's in terms of physical exercise, things to turn off the adrenal glands, things to bring about a calmer, more peaceful mind and a more relaxed body is the first step in strengthening digestion. And then there are foods that we can eat that in that state begin to rekindle our natural digestive fire that begins to go out when we get stressed or when we get older. And again, this depends on the body type, but
right, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to go into the constitutions of the body type and looking at, good times to eat too, right, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. So eating your largest meal in the middle of the day, making sure that you don't eat between meals. Eating between meals weakens your digestion.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people out there say, you got to eat every 2 hours. And I just listened to Don Dewey's on his food thing, and it's what Richard just said. We need to eat the 3 meals a day, the biggest one before the afternoon, and then shut off everything by 6 o'clock, and you'll be amazed at how much fat you're going to burn, and then you won't have the weight issues, and you'll actually strengthen the gastrointestinal system.
Well, I find that funny when you hear people talking about how you need to eat every couple of hours or eating regularly, and I always followed a Chinese principle that just simply says eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired.
Yeah.
To me that made a lot more sense.
Yeah, it's not really all that complicated.
No.
Yeah, well, they certainly would complicate it, so you'll buy books and attend seminars.
Yeah.
Right, and I know there's a lot of people out there in the fitness world that will tell you every 2 hours. And it's like, okay, well, then you're not burning the fat, and we need the fat to be burned. That's the highest fuel source for our body. We're training, if you eat a carrot every 2 hours, you're going to burn the carrot. You're not going to burn the fat stores. And you have to eat the proper fats, too, of course. Right. And I like to follow in the constitutions, of who you are, if you're Pitta, Vata, or Kapha,
All fascinating stuff. Richard or Lynn, is there a website people can find out more about what we're talking about here today?
Yes. Go ahead, Richard. You can tell yours first, and then I can give mine.
Yeah, my website is ayurvedaplus.com. It's AYURVEDAPLUS.com. And there's links there that talk about the different programs and rejuvenation therapies and consultations that we have here.
And Lynn?
And my website is symbolsofhealing.com. And that's just SYMBOLS, and then OF, and then healing, HEALING.com.
I'd like to thank both of you joining us here on the program. I like when stereotypes are broken down to real solutions to things that anybody can do. And I love that you both had also said this isn't one size fits all. It's very individual. It's such a pleasure to hear something like that.
Right, and I always say, it's anything's possible to those who believe. I like to say everything's possible to those who know. The knowing.
Richard, Lynn, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Thank you so much, and be well, everyone out there. Thank you. Take care.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
We also thank the guest out there for joining in. Thanks for sending us your questions to ask for our guest. Always participate in the Beyond 50 radio program. Also be sure to visit us at our website, which is beyond50radio.com, the number 550, and sign up for our free weekly e-newsletter. Comes by email every week. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program. And remember, live your day past halfway.